All right, thank you all for being here this evening. We have a few district highlights that Superintendent McKay is going to let us know about, beginning with FCCLA and including winter athletics.
All right, hopefully you're aware that our FCCLA continues to amass some pretty impressive accomplishments. This is not new. If you followed FCCLA over the last number of years, it's been a very successful program and excellent for students. 20 of our high school and middle school students made it to the state event. Of those 20, 13 students are now going to be taking a trip all the way across the United States to Florida to compete at the national level. So great for them, great for our school, great for our community, and the experience that those students will have on that trip will probably be something they'll remember for a lifetime. Continuing with FCCLA, we know that one of our students is the state chapter president. We've known that for a while. He's just a fantastic young man and, represents the high school and our community very well. He has now taken that up a level. He is one of 15 semifinalists from across the nation that is being considered for the 24-25 FCCLA Member of the Year Award. And that award is sponsored by the United States Army. So Parker Casey is recognized as one of the top 15, and we'll see what happens when that award is presented. So from what we hear, the insiders believe he has a very good opportunity, chance to be placed in that award. So we'll follow along. When we gathered together last month at the board meeting, we recognized students and teams who had already competed in their state tournaments and just, again, an incredible winter. But at that time, our boys basketball team had not had the opportunity to compete at state. And they did what they needed to do. They got to the Sun Dome, which was all in itself is a great accomplishment, and they ended up getting a trophy out of it, 5th place. So great season for them. If you were able to watch them and the game against Prosser, it was the 5th time that they had played. Unfortunately, both teams played, I thought, very well, highly competitive game. Unfortunately, it got right down to the very end, and the ball bounced Prosser's way a few times and not ours, and that decided it. But again, when all said and done, I'm sure that those students will look back on that experience. One of the things I also thought was just incredible was the community support that was there throughout the entire state tournament. But that Prosser game definitely, as you looked on both sides of the stands, there was a lot of very proud people of the young man on the court and the entire community and high school as well. So those are very rewarding experiences. We also, it's incredible to even think about the academic accomplishments that go along with our students in the athletic competition. But our boys and our girls basketball teams are being recognized as the top GPA for their respective division in 2 days, the 2A division. Of all the 2A schools who participated, we had the highest grade point average in not only the boys team, but the girls team as well. And that in itself to have 1 is a huge accomplishment. But to have 2 is a very, very unusual accomplishment. And I'm going to take it a step further because we've now learned that our high school dance team has also been named academic state champions for the 2A. So to have 3 teams be recognized for that accomplishment is just simply incredible. And more than likely is not going to happen again for a very, very long time. Hopefully it does. Hopefully our kids that are participating in athletics continue to be scholar athletes and represent our community not on in the competition, but also in the classroom. So pretty proud moment. One more thing that is not here, not on the list, is that I always like to share some very positive things going on. And today was another one of those. Today was our annual retiree reception. So any of the employees who have retired from the district, we contact them and invite them to an hour and a half long time where they can just come together. and talk and reminisce. And we had somewhere between 25 and 30 former employees come together today for an hour and a half. And they just sat around and drank coffee and ate dessert and talked about what was going on in their lives and their experiences here as a retiree of the district. So very positive. All of them, as they walked out, were so thankful for us organizing that, because it helped them reconnect with people that they hadn't seen for maybe a very long time. So very positive. So there's some highlights for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item, which is the district suggestions for and comments from the audience, district guidelines for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience would like to make a comment this afternoon? And nothing came in over the wire? Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 4, which are the meeting minutes. This is approval of regular meeting minutes for the February 27th and March 13th meeting of this year. I will move that we approve the board minutes for those 2 meetings. Is there a second?
Second it.
And is there any comments or questions about those meeting minutes? All those in favor of approving the regular meeting minutes signify with an aye. Aye. Opposed? With a nay. And abstentions? All right, we're moving on to the consent agenda. And we will, as we've been doing for a while now, tackle all of these as a single approval of the agenda. But we do have some notes, I think, on the Human Resources Action Sheet. Chris, is there anything you want to?
Yeah, we, as you know, we still continue to see a small amount of attrition in the district. One of the highlights this month is that we did fill our open certificated nursing position for the district. It's important for us to keep our nursing staff. We have one resignation at the end of the school year, and this Crystal Graham will be replacing that nurse. So we're excited about that. One that's not on here that we're excited about is Betty Lopez just hired a new SLP today. And that is, or yesterday maybe, that was really good news, because SLPs are hard to find, speech and language pathologists. So also, I wanted to give you an update just where we're at with attrition right now at this point during the school year. Normally we see more resignations and retirements. This year, not as many. So on the certificated side of things, we have 2 retirements to date, and we have basically 3 resignations. So we're at 5 on the certificated side of things. We have also 1 administrative resignation as well, but 5 on the teacher ranks. And then on the classified side of things, we have 7 retirements. One of those is before the first of the year, but I like to keep track of all of them during the school year. Resignations, we have 20 from the start of the school year, but if you we really focus on after the first of the, in January. Since January, we have 18 resignations on the classified side of things. So actually we have 11, sorry. 20 since the beginning of the year, 11 since January, so total of 27 or 31, sorry, or no, I'm confusing myself. 18 total since January. So that gives you that with resignations and retirements. Yeah, I have a vacation day tomorrow. So if you'll recall, in most years, we're double that easy on our attrition. So this year, slower numbers coming in, and we're getting the hires, our administrative staffing, they're all doing a great job getting some postings out. Some postings we're holding on. We want to see if there's any more attrition that happens, and we're still finalizing staffing plans. So we don't want to go too quick on some of those postings. So.
Great. I'll just quickly, in case people didn't get to see it, note that 2 of the resignations, or retirements, I should say, are big losses for the district, but great for those teachers. Angie Brown at SIS has been a longtime PE teacher up there and is just an outstanding educator. And then Mike Archer, who goes back, how many years has Mike taught? 40 something. Does his wife have him beat on years teaching? She might, but Mike has been teaching in the school district for a long time at Selah Middle School. And I know those two buildings will very much miss those instructors.
Thank you for highlighting both of
Yeah.
those. Those are big ones.
And payroll goods and services?
I don't have anything specific to highlight on the payroll goods and services this month.
Right. And if people haven't looked, there's a terrific list of out-of-state overnight travel requests that we will be voting to approve or not approve. Some of the highlights there are the DECA International Competition, which is in Orlando. Dom DeClaire is taking 4 students, I think, from Selah to the Nationals, which is really great showing. There's a Skills USA conference, state conference in SeaTac. Silverwood Field Trip, which is an annual trip that the band takes, I think middle school band takes, starting at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or some horrible thing like that. And then the Jazz Fest to the University of Idaho with Mr. Madsen. Are there anything that we need to know about those or that we want to highlight other than those I've mentioned? Or any questions about those from the board? All right, and finally, second to last, is an annual reduction, a reduced education program, a resolution 2025-1. It's our first resolution of the year. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And this is an annual resolution that we have always done, basically, that is more or less a legal requirement if there's some emergency that happens that we need to reduce our force. Is there anything that you want to add to that, Chris or Kevin?
Well, I would like to just add quickly that, yes, it has been a longstanding practice to have the board adopt a RIF resolution every year because we want to make sure that we are in compliance with our labor contracts if we ever have to go out and hope we never do, have to implement a RIF. And again, it is required by our labor contracts, our union contracts, to get board approval before any of that happens. And as you know, the deadline for non-renewals for teachers is May 15. So we always bring it to the board in March or April. So this year, March.
And as Mr. Peters said, the legal implications are that May 15th date. That is an important date with contracts. And so there are legal implications as well as collective bargaining implications. And this, in a way, is really protection for the school district about the what if that could happen. And in this case regarding what happens at the legislative level, if there were significant reductions of funding, it would allow the district to respond to that accordingly.
Fortunately, we've been able to satisfy any reductions over the years through attrition, so we haven't had to go this route, which is we're very thankful for because this gets very ugly when you have to implement a full RIF. So we're excited that we're not in that position, but the legislative session's not over, but we're not anticipating any significant changes in our funding, so.
Great. Any questions or comments about the resolution, the board? The final item on the consent agenda is a happy one. This is from Jared Iverson, who donated $780 to the district to allow, how many students were able? It was for the state basketball tournament.
Was it 100?
Which allowed 100 students to get in a ticket, bought 100 tickets for 100 students so that they could attend the game without having to pay, which is just fantastic. So thank you very much, Jared Iverson. And I understand, Kevin, that the Iverson family generally were generous hosts to the district, or excuse me, the state tournament in the Sun Dome this year as well.
Yeah, it's my understanding, and we have one of the members, obviously, of the family right there, but that each team that attends that qualifies for the state basketball tournament in most years has a host assigned to them that helps support them, navigates the logistics of all that thing, provides them meals and all kinds of additional things depending on what the host family is. And the Iverson family of Selah was generous enough to not only support our high school students, but 2 other high schools as well. And so we thank them for their generosity, as I'm sure the other high schools do as well, to make that experience even that much better. So Thank you. Pass that on to your family as well.
Yours is dead. And I didn't have one. I would just like to mention too, that the Iversons did that last year at least as well, maybe in previous years too. So, and also they keep their money in Selah, which we really appreciate as well. Bringing those guys in for lunch helps out local businesses.
That's a lot of hamburgers at Miners.
They're just disappointed they can't go back to the brewery.
Yeah, right. That's right. All right, terrific. Let's see. I think now we all move that we approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Great. Or is there comments or questions on the consent agenda? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify with an aye. Aye. Opposed with a nay. Abstentions? All right, we're moving on now, slightly out of order so that we can get Hunter and Jeff to another event this evening, which is up at SIS, I believe.
Yes, CIS is putting on a family engagement night.
Awesome.
I'm leading a few sessions up there starting at 5:30. So
Excellent. So we have first, Hunter is going to present a quarterly, I believe, data presentation on testing and assessment.
yeah, so this time, this is our second time looking at district-wide data. This is going to be, mainly be around, most of the data you're going to see today is around iReady. iReady we looked at in the fall was our baseline data along with SBA. This is going to be our middle of year data, sort of the second administration of iReady for our schools that do it. I'll explain as we go along. It's first growth by school in math and ELA. And then disaggregated by baseline placement. Kindergarten doesn't do a fall iReady because they're doing WA Kids, so it'll just be their initial diagnostic. It's taken around the same time. And then I'll go into iReady growth by grade level. And then to make sure we have some high school data too, just have some comparisons of our 9th grade on track data compared to the state by both demographics in our district and then also by program in our district. So iReady uses some specific terminology. I wanted to go over this first so you guys had a general understanding of when I use these phrases. Typical growth is what we would expect a student to make, not expect, but this is what students make on average normed across all schools that take iReady. So typical growth is what we want to see 100% by the end of the year for our students. Stretch growth is a ambitious goal for students, specifically students who are 2 or more grade levels behind. If they're 2 grade levels behind, 2 years of stretch growth gets them to grade level. If they're 3 or more, they need at least 3 years of stretch growth. Baseline placement is just where they started in the fall. And then progress towards annual typical growth. This is it's a new metric that I don't think you guys have seen in the past, but this is the median percent progress towards typical growth. And I'll explain this to you as we look at the slides. Okay, so any questions on those? For district-wide data are iReady. So the top left bar that you see says 67%. This is the median. So of the 2,072 students who took iReady, the middle student, so about if you rank order them from least growth to most growth, has made 67% growth for their annual growth, which is good. Halfway through the year, annual growth would be about 50%. So this is showing that as a district, our students are growing more than in other schools that use this metric. The chart down below that has the multiple bars, this shows where those students fall. So this is hard to see from this far away. On the far right is the percentage of students who have made more than 100% of their annual typical growth. That's our biggest bar as a district. So halfway through the year, 38% of our students have already made what we would expect them to make the whole year. That is a highlight and a celebration. The concerning part of this graph, typically in an ideal world, we want this to look like a cell phone like reception chart to have, because on the far left is students have made less than 20% of growth for the year. This looks like a field goal post. We have students that are making growth, lots of growth, and we have students that are not making growth and not a lot in between. Typically, what we do see is it's pretty evenly distributed. And I'll go into the schools data as well. On the far right side is district level growth by their baseline placement. So where students started at the beginning of the year and how much growth they have made based on their initial placement. You can see celebration here is our students who were furthest behind have made the most growth, which it would be concerning if our students who were furthest behind were not making expected growth. It would mean that they're falling further and further behind. So reading this kind of stair steps up to mid or above grade level, that is students who have already surpassed their grade level expectations. It's harder to show growth within a grade level. So this is another celebration as well. This is kind of what we want to see in regards to growth by baseline placement. Okay. The next few slides are going to be these exact same charts, just by content and by school. So any questions on what these three charts mean? Okay, I'm starting from young. We'll start younger and go older. Sorry, that was ELA, and this is our math. The math, we have some room to grow. We're a little behind what we would typically want to see. We want to be about 50% halfway through the year. That field goal phenomenon on that lower chart is still showing up as well. But on the right, our students who are making the most growth are the ones who are far behind or approaching grade level. So this is reading and math. Now we'll go to the schools growth. So this is John Campbell's reading growth. Their median percentage of typical growth was 59%. They're our most evenly distributed distribution of progress towards annual growth. And then on the far right, it shows compared to baseline placement. This is reading growth. You can see difference, 55% median. The distribution is showing that field goal post phenomenon again, and then baseline placement on the right. And then this is a big highlight, our middle school reading growth. The median percentage of growth is 106% halfway through the school year, meaning that more than half of our students have already made their typical growth, what we would expect to see. Huge celebration. Concern, again, is that the two pillars. Kids are even making a ton of growth or they're not making any, there's not much in between. So that's something we're going to dive into further as well. But you can see on our right, baseline placement, we're seeing a lot of growth for our students that are further behind.
Hunter, can I ask a quick question about the shape of those graphs there?
Yeah.
Is that, I know that's not what we want it to be. Is that what it is at other districts? Is that typical for these assessments?
Yes, but what's typical usually is the students who are not making growth are the students who are furthest behind. So that's why this is somewhat concerning, but also not as concerning, I would say, because our students who are already beyond grade level, while they're not making as much growth as our students who are further behind, they're still making growth overall, just not at a faster rate. And so we're not as concerned as them falling behind because they're already at or above grade level, if that makes sense. when they present this, they present it as you would like it to see, like a cell phone chart, where it would be the smallest on the far left on the, and it would be getting your percentages would be getting bigger and bigger. Ideal world, everyone's making 100% growth for the whole school, the whole district. Yeah. The other thing I think is remind ourselves is 50% is kind of a barometer for halfway through the year.
Hunter, you kind of combine the theory, the two ways of looking at it, the bottom left and the right side.
Yeah.
You're saying in general that with that percentage 34, that would be kids that are below grade level and just dug their heels in and says, I'm not going to learn.
No, so are you talking about the bottom left chart?
Yeah, I mean, what makes up the 34%?
34% is regardless of where they started. How much growth have they made towards what we would expect of them for the year?
Have we kind of been able to extrapolate out of the right chart what makes up that 34%?
No. So what this is if we only looked at the chart on the bottom left, it would just tell you that you have students that are making a ton of growth and some students that are making hardly any growth at all. The chart on the right disaggregates it by who's making that growth. So I'm looking at this, the students who have met 100%, the 52%, the biggest bar right there, the 52% have gone over 100%. If I look to the on the right, it disaggregates a little bit more to say, I can make a pretty predictive guess that that student probably started behind. Does that make sense? And then I guess on the far right of that right graph is the percent that have met their goal already. Because remember this, so 3 or more grade levels below, 134% is the median. So that's the middle student of students that were 3 or grade levels below. The middle student has already made 130% of expected growth. On to the right of that, it says 59% have already met 100% of their goal.
Guess just kind of trying to think out loud, like, we can diagnose which 34% that is it lack of support on the students that aren't getting, that are already behind, or lack of support on the higher end, or lack of support on the, how.
Yeah. Okay, now I understand your question a little better. Looking at this one specifically, it's our students that are at mid or above grade level, and how iReady defines mid or above is you are beyond standard. So it's our students who are achieving at a very high level. And this have shown that they've made zero, like the median student has made 0% progress towards their growth. It also says 43% of those students have already met their typical, right? So that 43% is above the median. So we have 43% of our students that were above grade level have met their goal, but the middle student and below, in regards to rank order, have not made much growth. Does that make sense? Does that explain it a little better? Again, this is a newer way of looking at it. When we presented iReady before, the chart on the right is a new iReady metric that we've been asking for, because on your question, we had the typical growth distribution before, the bottom left chart. We didn't know who the students were that were growing or not growing. We had our assumptions. This tells us, yeah, specifically where they started, who's making the most growth.
So, quick question, just looking ahead also to the math, because this holds true for both the math and the reading. Middle school looks like they're doing something that's working a little bit better than at the other two schools. Can we replicate that?
Yeah, and one caveat to this, I would say, so yes, I want to highlight some of the things they're doing, is when you take this assessment, is super important. There's a window. iReady recommends 9 weeks, minimum of 9 weeks before administrations of iReady. SIS chose to take their assessment before winter break, usually, so the window is early December through very beginning of February. SIS wanted to use it for their intervention purposes, so they took it 4 to 5 weeks sooner than the other schools did, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when your school year is only 10 months and you're taking a month and a half, it's 10% of the learning that hasn't happened. So I'd be interested to see at the very end of the year, or end of the year assessments, who's made the most growth. So that's my one explanation of why SIS's looks a little lower than typical. This is the highest growth we have seen at the middle school this in the years that I've been in the district. Which is good, because that has been usually the inverse. Math is lower across the board. This is a phenomenon across schools that use iReady too. Math performs lower than reading does. Again, though, JCP, the median student is at 52% growth, which is a little bit above what we would want. JCP again has the most even distribution of students that are making typical growth. This is at 39%, and that's why I wanted to give that one caveat. They took it a month and a half earlier with a break, before winter break. And then middle school at 54% for math. Again, that football dynamic coming on, field goal posts showing up. So any other questions on the growth? I'm going to jump into now Lince's. This is just 2 slides that show their diagnostics. So this is basically their baseline data, because they don't take it in the fall. They took it in January. This is for reading. If you can see, the green is good. We want green. There is no red in kinder, because red means 2 or more grade levels below. Kinder is the first grade level. So the preschool level would be 1 grade level below. We have 50% of our students that are looking to be on track for reading halfway through the year. And this is achievement. This is not growth. And then math, I can't quite read that and I don't have it memorized. It's 29% on grade level midway through the year. Yep. We want yellow to get smaller. We want the dark green to get as big as possible and the brighter green to get bigger as well. Which you'll see my next slides will be our achievement and growth, more traditionally what you guys have seen in the past for iReady for our schools that take it 3 times. This is the next few slides are fall to winter growth by school. This is John Campbell for reading. The grade 1 is the first two lines. The winter benchmark is the most recent one, the middle of the year. I'll read some of the data so you can see we have 34% at grade level at winter benchmark. We started at 11. So this is, you want red to get smaller, yellow to get smaller, green to get bigger. Generally, that is what's happening. Grade level 2, 19% were at grade level to start the year. We're now at 35%. So trending in the right direction. And this assesses where we want students to be by the end of the year. We're grade level standards. So this is not within January, we have 35% of students. This is pretty predictive of where they should be at the end of the year. And so we really want those yellow and red to be smaller and smaller as we go along. This is growth by grade level. This on the left side is typical growth that we talked about already, where we expect students to be. So again, above that 50% growth percentage. To the right of that is stretch growth. So we've seen that the median stretch growth is 40% in grade 1, 42% in grade 2. Again, that is an ambitious goal that we want students to attain. And you can see that how many have already met their growth goals to the right of that. This same chart as John Campbell, they started at 34% on grade level in reading in 3rd grade. They're now at 43%. 22% on grade level in the fall for 4th grade, and now at 25%. And started at 19% in 5th grade, and now at 29%. This is their growth again by both typical and stretch. And middle school, 27% started in the fall at 6th grade on grade level, 37% now. I'm not gonna read all the numbers to it, you guys can see them. And then their growth. So really it's in 7th and 8th grade where we're seeing the most growth within our system. Some of this work this year has really getting back to using iReady for standards mastery as well, and helping define skills for intervention for our students in middle school. That's something the middle school has really dove into, and making sure their assessments align. So that is my hypothesis of why we've seen so much growth at the middle school. And at the elementaries, usually we see a ton of growth. So and we're still seeing above average growth for elementary. So I don't have a definitive answer of why we've seen so much in the middle school and what to replicate, other than the standards mastery work that they've done this year. So now that was reading. Math, so same thing. I'll fly through these and just let me know if I'm going too fast. Math, we start at 5% on grade level in 1st. We're now at 22%. 10% in 2nd grade, now at 23%. And their growth data. This is SIS's growth from fall to winter in math. Their growth. And then the middle schools. The last data piece is just 2 slides for high school. High school does not take iReady. It stops in 8th grade. Excuse me. So the biggest predictor of academic success and high school success towards graduation has been found if you're on track to graduate as a freshman. So the earlier we can intervene as students start high school, and this is a more academic celebration, because if you look on the left, this is our students. This comes from OSPI's website. Percent of students that are on track to graduate in 9th grade for all students is about 83%. For the state, the average is around 70%. So we're outperforming the state in almost every metric and almost every demographic. The ones where we don't have a bar, it's not that it's that low, it's just that we don't have reportable numbers because our N size is too small. That means by the end of your freshman year, you at least have a quarter of your credits and you've not failed more than one class. So you've passed all your classes essentially, and you are not at risk of having to take remedial or retake classes or credit retrieval classes. A lot of this work, why this is going, we have a not freshman success, with ninth grade success team that identifies students that are might be off track coming into high school, and also once they're in high school, they're looking at data and essentially assigns case managers to check in with students, to work with students. They might also take additional classes, might help them with executive functioning to make organized so they're successful starting their high school career. This is the same type of data, but just by program characteristic. This is really small to read from this far away, but we're outperforming in almost every program area compared to the state. Questions?
How's it compared to where we were this time last year?
Which
Let's say the first two slides, the district level, iReady district growth reading and district growth.
I didn't look school by school, but compared to from last year to this year, our growth is higher than it was last year from a district level in regards to both math and reading for iReady. Yeah. Yeah. Especially at the middle school. SIS is lower than it was in the past, but again, they did take it quite a bit earlier.
Any other questions?
I think this kind of applies. That probably loosely at least understands that there's some pressure to get our scores where they need to be. So how do you avoid teaching to a test? Just you want to be able to pass iReady. So, how do we avoid that? And it's conceptual, then they
Yeah, I think our focus has been what are the essential standards that kids, when they leave a grade level, they have to know to be successful moving on. And that has been our focus for our tier ones in each and every classroom, but also within our intervention systems. And those have our intervention systems have grown and aligned across the district more each year. And I think that is a reason why we're seeing more growth, because we are teaching students what they actually need and not randomly. So we're using the data from these assessments to teach the skills that they're missing. The other thing about iReady is there is no false positives. So you can't fake a good score. It's a dynamic test. You can get depressed scores if kids are like, I'm not taking this seriously. We don't put a lot of emphasis on the test and teaching to the test. We do put an emphasis on what are the skills and the standards that kids need to know in every single classroom within grade levels. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Hunter. Appreciate the information. I think we'll have another update on this, maybe once we get the data at the end of the year.
Yeah, and at the end of your day, I'll do another report and we'll look from, I'll figure it out, but we might do fall, middle, and end of year to see the growth progression throughout the year.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right, our next presentation is from Jeff Cochran. Jeff's going to tell us a little bit about the school district's approach to artificial intelligence.
Mic up here. So one of the things that I've been fortunate to be a part of is we have a committee that looks at AI, and it looks at AI from the perspective that it's not something we want to outlaw. It's here. So we want our teachers and our students especially to know how to use AI appropriately. And that really came about through this committee. We looked at lots of district policy, and the committee was comprised of people who were very into AI, who loved it, who were all about it, wanted to add it to their classes, wanted to use it in instruction, all the way to people who were more resistant, to put it nicely. And that was very intentional. We wanted people who would provide a wide variety of opinion and a wide variety of experience in the use of AI as a tool in the classroom. So as a part of this committee, we looked at lots of different policies. We made a recommendation to Kevin about what policy we should enact from the school board. And then really the meat of our work was to assess different tools and to look at what tools we would use as a district that were appropriate, that could be used K-12, that could be used by students and staff, as well as that provided some supports in the school system. So it wasn't just kind of the wild, wild west. It was sort of what we call a sandboxed environment. So we selected, I'm going to go over what we selected here in a minute, but what we did then is we brought this tool that we selected called Magic School. We brought it to our district leadership team, and our AI committee led some breakout sessions to our district leadership team, which was comprised of staff from across the district, administrators and teachers. We did that PD, and then our use exploded on the teacher side. I'm going to show you some data around that. And then we also attended an AI conference to learn more about what other schools were doing, what were some of the barriers to implementation, what were some of the things, the noticings, the things we need to be aware of as we become, as we use AI more in our practice. So what I'd like to do is show you a little bit about Magic School, so you kind of get an idea of what we're using. Then I'll show you some data associated with that. And then I'll kind of talk to you about next steps and answer any questions you might have. So Magic School, it's this really, it's a sandboxed environment that has tools built in for teachers to use to help create content, to help create lesson plans, you can use it to create YouTube questions. So questions based on a YouTube, you put the YouTube link in there, it'll generate you multiple choice questions for those. It can help you create assessments, things like that. It's all built into this one tool. So that's something that our committee really appreciated was, it's hard to see in here, but there's an image generator in here. There's depth of knowledge question generators. There's a 504 plan generator. It's all built in here, all within the sandbox environment that we as administrators have access to. We can see kind of what's going on and get a glimpse into the data behind it. So some of the reasons we chose Magic School, number one, we're using AI really to help save time. It saves a massive amount of planning time. If I need to know, hey, what are some questions on the Vietnam War? Typically, teachers are going to look at a book, or we have some curriculum. Most of our curriculum, especially in the history department, is now open resources. So they're finding their own resources. They're building their own resources. Well, a tool like Magic School or ChatGPT or some of these other tools that are out there, they allow us to create those quickly. And then, of course, the experts go through and they edit and they make sure that it's appropriate, not only for the student level, but the information is correct. The nice thing about Magic School is it gives us a safe, I keep using the word sandbox. What I mean by that is it's all our internal information. There's been a lot of concern out there with AI and Facebook AI and ChatGPT using your data to train their other AI models. Magic School doesn't do that. It's written to their acceptable use policy. They do not. It's all our information. And then, the third thing down there, what we have found is we have trained teachers to use this tool is that it's easy, it's simple. And it's pretty easy for students as well, although we don't have as many teachers using it with students yet as I would have probably anticipated at this point. Kind of went through all that stuff. So some data on where we are. Dan's seen this. He was at our last district leadership team meeting where we went over some of these data points. But we had the PD with our district leadership team where we introduced this tool in January. So you can see our use skyrocketed there. And then when I pulled this data, we were early in March. So that's why that graph is a little bit lower, but I would expect that will continue to rise. Since we have a district license, we have teachers nearly every day asking, hey, can I get that full license because I'd like to use it more? So we've kind of got this grassroots movement working where teachers are recruiting each other and saying, hey, I'm using this. Why don't you try it in this lesson? And then it's really growing in that way. And I think that's a really healthy way to grow this. It's not some top-down district-led initiative. It's a, hey, colleague, here's a tool that I'm using that's making my job a little bit simpler. Okay, it's freeing up time where I can work more with kids, right? Let's try it. I'll show you how to do it. So that's really the method we've taken with our professional development around this. This is just some data around what types of tools they're using. It's mostly content generation right now. Questioning, some planning tools. What I like to see is, I wonder if this little thing, this community tools here. I am really interested in how we can use AI for generating communications with our community, with our parents. How can we do that more effectively? Because I think that's an area that schools are typically not really great at, is that communication aspect. And I think AI can help with that because it frees up some of that time. It's not that we're not great communicators, it's that our time is spent with kids, right? That's why we're here. We want to be in front of students.
So Jeff, I see on a couple slides back, and you don't have to go there. One option is to create a class newsletter. Is that kind of what you have in mind?
Yes, absolutely. Generating other things you can do. You can plug in all the student assignments and say, hey, generate a letter for each student that's going to go home explaining my feedback. Click, and then you can get 30 different responses to each student based on the feedback you've already typed in. So it's your content, but now it's generating a letter that says, hey, you've done well, your student's done well in these areas. So it's additional feedback that, I as a parent would appreciate, right? I just had my son's conference. I live in Ellensburg, so it was last week. But it's a one-time kind of conversation where I'm getting that data. We got iReady data. We looked at that. It's a one-time. When I was a teacher, I called it like sucker punch grading, right? You get it right at the end. You're like, oh, okay, cool. That's my grade. This, I think, can help us get that midstream grade or midstream feedback that's actually more important and more impactful for learning. This is a massive graph, but really the reason I put it on here is you can see these are the things that teachers are currently using it for. The number one is YouTube video questions. So they're plugging in a YouTube video link and then getting questions generated based on that. Lesson planning is number two, worksheet generation. We would like to see those things shift because we don't want to just have kids doing worksheets. We want them to be active with their learning. And so that's something we talked a little bit about at district leadership. Next steps. So at our last district leadership team meeting, we really looked at where's the appropriate use? So yeah, that's okay. Where's the appropriate use for AI being like green? You can use it no matter what. Where is yellow? Where is AI kind of used as an assistant? And then where is it red? You cannot use AI no matter what. The other thing we did is we had a panel discussion with the people who went to the AI conference, and Dan, maybe you can share a little bit about that. But what I took from the AI, I was unable to go at a grant meeting, so I didn't get to go to the conference. But what I took from the feedback we got from the panel discussion of the teachers who went, and we had intermediate school, 2 middle school, 2 high school, and then Hunter. The feedback that I got was that we're all sort of concerned, but we're feeling good about having this type of conversation about where is it appropriate? Where can we use this? Let's get out ahead of it. Because one of the students that presented at that conference, he said, no matter what policy you have, we're going to use it. It's out there, it's going to be used, and it's going to be used for an advantage. So we better teach our students to use it right. So that was some of the feedback and that's something that we believe too. We need to use AI appropriately, but use it to our advantage to make things hopefully simpler. So next steps are we're getting this all typed out. We'll have a document that's kind of green. Here's where we recommend AI can be used. Here's yellow, here's red, and then that will be something that we can have in our district handbook that shows here's kind of what we think about AI, number one. Number two, where it can be used, what we can use it for.
I'll just add, thank you for letting me sit in on that and participate in that discussion. As I mentioned at the event, our school district is ahead of where the community college is in terms of having the conversation amongst that isn't just at lunch, that's structured. And I thought this yellow, green, and red was really helpful. And it's boy, it's a challenge, right? I mean, that artificial intelligence is everything and its opposite. So it has as much potential to be helpful as it is to have some damaging effects as well. So I think the district is doing a great job of, I don't know if I would ever say get out ahead of it, because we're going to be always just a little bit behind it, it seems. But moving forward and making progress on setting some definitions and some guidelines for instructors and obviously for students as well. And the other thing I found was among the panel and then among the more the sticky note session, there's a real wide perspective about what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate, and of course there's early adopters and people that are hesitant, resistant to it, and that all seems like that's normal and expected. So I think, like you said, having these people that then go into the buildings and talk it through even more and bring that information back is a really strong approach. And there's a whole bunch more I want to say, but it's developing for sure.
As student usage, seems like there can be some real similarities between this and the advent of smartphones.
Yeah.
You know, how we made some decisions where, no, phones are not okay, you can't have them, when we find out that kids get jittery when they're working on phones. So then, okay, we can bring cell phones into the classroom, and we find out, oh, we gotta get rid of them again.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's gonna be a lot of learning, but AI is probably similar to that we're really gonna have some steps over the next, 4 or 5 years in order to manage these things correctly.
Yeah, and I think with any new tech, when we brought one-to-one Chromebooks in, or we're still learning, oh my gosh, well, maybe that wasn't as appropriate they're all going home and different things. It's being responsive to the demands of our classrooms and our teachers, right? I think that's why I really appreciate the district leadership team, in that it's a really healthy group that offers a wide range of opinions on, hey, AI is cheating, to, hey, AI is great and we should use it in everything, right? There's a wide range, and they all listen and respect each other. So it's a really healthy conversation. I remember when smartphones came into the classroom, right? And it was like, hey, every kid's gonna we used to say, well, you won't have a calculator in your pocket forever, right? And well, now you do, right? And so it's adapting and trying to figure out the best way forward, the best way to teach students, and have our teachers to teach the students how to use it appropriately.
I think eventually too, this would be a good topic for a community forum. Okay, yeah, because the same concept with stakeholders and parents and stuff. Some people, yeah, it's great. Some people, it's a bad word. Your kid, your kid can't cheat, so.
Yeah, next community forum, I can't remember, in May sometime, but the main topic of that is AI.
I had in my English 102 class at YVC, that's the subject of our classes, to talk about writing in artificial intelligence. And this last quarter, I had other faculty members from different disciplines come in and be a part of panels for 5 weeks in a row. And one of them was our business instructor, Emily Oldham. And she said that a recent graduate from last year, their very first job interview, the person asked them, how can you use artificial intelligence to help our company? And so there's a responsibility in some ways, as much as, we may want to drag our feet to use that as a job skill, to use that as a learning tool, because it'll be expected of them when they graduate. Well,
And that was going to be my question. So we're talking about what we're allowing, but what are we teaching? So do we have a course? Is this being implemented into one of the existing courses or a plan for
And
that?
there are state
Teaching students how to
state
use AI.
outcomes for that we're trying to get to.
Yeah, so AI is embedded into the new standards that are supposed to be out soon. We haven't seen those in their entirety yet. But in my mind, the beauty of what we're hearing about those new standards is they're embedded. The technology standards are embedded throughout in all different subject areas. So it used to be that like your digital media or your digital citizenship is what it used to be called out as. It used to be it was in its own silo. And, back when I started teaching, it was its own class, right? It was like, this is where you get your digital citizenship. Well, now, I mean, we know when you're doing research in an English class or a history class, you need to know how to write, how to value your sources, right? You need to know, I mean, we talk about evaluating sources all the time, but you need to know how to use AI to maybe do a search. That's something we talked about at district leadership, but those are embedded all throughout, even in math. How can you use math to simplify, right? I mean, that's a skill, but then how do you assess that simplification to know that it's right? And I think, in terms of higher order thinking, assessing something is a much higher order thinking than just recalling something. So I appreciate that about the new standards. I haven't seen them yet, but they're going to have to be embedded. And so that'll be the next thing we do with district leadership team next year is really looking at the implementation of the new rollout of the standards that are coming out.
Well, then that's tricky because I'm an English teacher and I know how to teach English. When I was trained to teach English in my teacher training program at Heritage, but I wasn't necessarily trained to teach English with AI. And I don't think we have that yet.
No,
And
that doesn't exist.
The answer is
Yeah.
that there's gonna be some unevenness to that, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are teacher prep programs incorporating that into their curriculum?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a missing link.
I was just curious, Jeff, is there a flat fee for Magic School or do we pay per license?
So it's a flat fee. We get like 250 teachers. $4,000, I think. Yeah.
I guess for me, I mean, obviously it's not going away. On its most basic level, it's a very powerful search engine that has been programmed by people.
Yeah.
Right. It may be able to learn and adapt and whatnot. For me, if we want to be on the forefront of the educational value of AI, we would be teaching our kids how to create it eventually, rather than just how to use it.
Agreed. Yeah. And that's one of the things that unfortunately, I'm hearing this secondhand about the conference, but the students who presented, that's what they were presenting about was, look, we're creating our own. We're taking the core of ChatGPT and we're adapting it to our needs and basically training that AI tool to work for us. And on a small level, I mean, I do that in my own work. In CTE, we have to write frameworks for every class. Those are like 60-page documents for every new class that we have to get approved. Well, I've made a framework builder. So I type in the class and say, here are the 12 units, and it finds all the standards that would be associated with those units instead of myself having to go through and find them individually. Right. So you're 100% right. Training and the AI jobs, when I go to South Central Workforce and they're talking about what jobs are in demand in Washington State, AI is, I don't have the right percent in front of me, but it's like 30 to 40% of the in-demand jobs in Washington State have the word AI somewhere in their job description.
There's a and yet Google says 25% of their coding is now done by AI. So it's, we were pushing coding, and now it looks like coding may be outpaced by AI. So it's almost as if there's this great New York Times article where they talk about vibe coding or software for one, which is that you use AI to build an app for yourself. not necessarily that you're building AI, but you're using that, and
Yeah.
off of that, you're plugging your own need into it. That may be where it's headed. I don't know.
It's interesting you say the coding piece because that's a class, we're in the master scheduling for next year and that's a class that we're seeing shrink. And I'm wondering if, and it's been shrinking for 2 or 3 years now, middle school and high school coding. And I wonder if students were kind of the canary in the coal mine, right? And they were seeing, oh my gosh, well, why do I do this? I can just type into Google and it'll code it for me, right? So I wonder if that's what was happening. We kind of thought it was a COVID related because students were in front of a computer all the time. And then, so we're seeing a sharp rise in our art. But anyway, it's a, yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Great. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And you're off to CIS as well?
I'm off to baseball practice.
You're off to baseball practice.
Hopefully it's not raining.
All right. Thank you very much. Hopefully, we'll hear back about how the community event goes, and this may be something we want to come back to next year.
Oh, yeah, this is never forget the most important users in our environment, and that's our students. And so we've got to do some work in regards to our students, what they know, what they don't know, what they need at the different levels. We talk about what the third grader needs compared to somebody that's getting ready to graduate. There's a whole spectrum of learning that's got to go on there, and we need to know from the most important people within the organization, and that's our kids.
All right, great. We are now moving on to the administration portion of our agenda. Intent to award John Campbell Primary School refrigerator project. And I'm reminding the board that we've kind of been hearing about this probably since at least the start of the year, maybe even going back to last year. The expansion of our offering to free lunch programs, or our eligibility to offer free lunch program and breakfast to all students results in a greater need for cold storage, I guess. You
Definitely.
want to fill us in on that?
Yeah, and you'll see in Lori's flyer report that she has in the packet that our participation for breakfast and lunch has really skyrocketed over the last 2 years. This year, we're seeing a little bit of a dip with some of the schools, but overall, we're serving more meals. And when we built John Campbell Elementary, put a central kitchen there, all the design work was done with the assumption of free and reduced applications and using the quantity, of meals that we were serving at that time. So although we have great storage space in that facility for the dry storage and cold storage, we do need this walk-in refrigeration freezer unit. And this is being paid for out of the nutrition budget. Lori's just done a tremendous job operating a program that's in the black every year. And so we have carryover funds that have built up that we need to utilize. And so the cost of this is coming out of her program. So that's kind of what's taken so long to get the ball rolling on this, because anytime you're dealing with federal money, there's a lot more hoops that you go through to make sure you're in compliance. So just very quickly, on March 6th, we opened bids for this project. We had 5 contractors submit bids. We were happy to see 70 Construction, a local company here, submit the low bid by, was it $1,000, $1,100, or $900, what they were low compared to the next one. Anyway, we're very excited to work with them. Our architect is very impressed with them so far. They hadn't worked with them before. So anyway, so we are recommending that the school board approve this intent to award the contract to 70 Construction at the dollar amount listed there, including tax. The 331,000 against the estimate by the architect, we're about 60,000 to the good. Bids came in lower than what the projected cost, so we're really happy about that. But anyway, so we'd like to recommend the board approve the intent to award.
And before you get there, most of the work will take place during the summer. There will be some electrical needs to shut the electrical systems off. So all that will take place during the summer. Very unlikely you'll see any evidence, maybe other than some 70 construction trucks around the site, but no substantial work is going to take place until summer.
It'll be on the, near the loading dock, back
Yes,
kind of in the back
correct.
of.
Kind of out of sight.
Right.
Yeah.
We are fortunate. I'm very familiar with 70 Construction on a professional and a personal matter. It didn't have anything to do with them getting the bid, thank goodness. But they are a really good company to work with. They do a lot of school-related work, and so they understand schools and working in schools. And so we're very fortunate to have them as a partner in this project.
So beginning the week of spring break is when they'll mobilize to the site, but as Kevin mentioned, most of the work will be done in the summer.
Are there any, do we need to have a vote on this probably? All right, I'll move that we approve the intent to award John Campbell Primary School refrigeration project. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments about that? Okay, all those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? Great, we'll move on to our student board representative report, and we have Claire. Claire, good to see you. It's springtime, so it's very busy for our students and their activities, but we're very glad you're here. Way at the end of the table though, Claire. Hi down there. Do you have anything you'd like to report?
Yeah, so excuse me, after our last meeting about the Viking Promise, it kind of like I was asking students around at Selah High School, I was like, hey, do you know what this is? And an overwhelming majority of students were not familiar with the Viking Promise. So I kind of got to explain it a little and like show them and ask them like questions like, oh, like we have this current base and there's work being done right now to cut it down to these 4 areas. And I was just kind of asking students about what they would like to see. And it was like along the lines of what we talked about at the last meeting, just continuing that engaging and rigorous classwork, and then just support for students who need extra support, and then more opportunities for those students who are already achieving high academic levels of success. So that's what most students did not know what it was, but they were really excited to like kind of learn about it. And so I think that if there is, I know we talked a little bit about ways to kind of like communicate that forward. And so maybe if there's any way that we could hold like as part of the community forum, that could be part of like a topic, I think that would be a really great way for not only like, not necessarily students, but like parents to see that, which I think would be really great. But that's just some idea there.
Thank you, Claire. I think one of the things we talked about last time that was interesting is how does it fit with kind of what the building vision is, or the mottos or the slogans at the building, because the high school has some ones that Colton feels very strongly about, and how those mesh together may not be clear to the students, but I think Colton has a pretty good idea of how it fits with the overall Viking Promise. Can I ask a quick question about AI? Jeff had to get somewhere, so I didn't want to stop and ask while he was finishing. What's your? I'll talk about your perspective in particular on artificial intelligence, either from a student perspective or how teachers are using it.
As a student, I really appreciate AI just because I feel like it saves me a lot of time when doing my schoolwork, and I don't use it in a way that it like takes away from my learning, but I do use it to like give me prompts to find these certain research topics about this, or what's a good title for this essay, things like that, or citing sources. And I think that students are either they're using it to kind of level up their learning, and then they're using it in helpful ways, or they're using it to do their work for them. And most teachers are able to tell which they're using it for. You know, if you copy and paste from ChatGPT, a teacher knows that that is not the student's work. But also, I feel like your average student knows how to use AI a lot better than any teacher does. And to the point earlier, to say no AI in school would just be ignorant because it's here to stay. It's not going away. And I think right now we just need to find ways for teachers to communicate effectively how they want it used. And I think that teachers do need to be trained on how to use it like themselves to help. I have a lot of teachers who do use it, and I think it's really helpful. Like, why would a teacher write 50 math problems when they can have AI do it for them, and then they can spend that time making videos for their students, you know? So I do think that it is a very powerful and beneficial tool when used in the right way. And I think that's like the $1 million question is, how do you narrow it down so that it's not being used incorrectly and taking over learning so that students aren't able to get that really immersive learning experience.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm glad to get your perspective on that. Maybe that could be a student voice panel as well. I think that'd be really interesting to hear. Because even when you're trying to do it right, it can sometimes feel icky, right? And we can feel like, oh, what am I doing here? Should I be doing this? It's very hard to tell. So I'd be interested to hear from a variety of students on that. Any questions or comments for Claire? Thank you very much, Claire, for your report. We'll move on now to the Associate Superintendent for District Operations. Mrs.
Right.
Chris with enrollment update.
I'm going to be doing the enrollment
sorry,
tonight.
Stephanie.
Giving Chris a break for a second, but all right. So March enrollment count, we saw a little dip in enrollment this month, about 18, almost 19 students, FTE, which looking back at last year, we had a similar dip. This is the trimester change trimester change. So we see a little dip this time of year. But overall, we're still only 10 under projection from what we had budgeted this year, which, considering when we're talking with our colleagues around the valley, that's not bad. We'll take that because they've seen a lot of decrease in enrollment, specifically in the kinder age. So 10 under projection right now, and we're hoping that that'll hold throughout the rest of the year. We usually see a little dip towards the end, especially with our secondary students, but we're feeling pretty good about that going for the next 3 months.
Steph, I hate to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
so actual dip in kindergarten, or does that mean that they have less that showed up than they were expected, or that they're losing?
Yeah. So what they budgeted, the actual kids that showed up was significantly less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that, I mean, like we've talked about, that's the hardest grade to predict because you don't know who's coming, if they'll show up. Some districts look at birth rates, but still that's really hard to predict coming in. All right, and then the financial status update for February. February marks halfway through the school year, so we're 50% of the way done. We've received 45% of our revenues and spent 48% of our allotted expenditures with an ending fund balance of just over 9 million in our general fund. And then for ASB, we have an ending fund balance of 576,000, debt service 668,000. Transportation vehicle fund, we have just under $500,000 in there. And yeah, and the bus purchase, we just issued that check this month, so that you'll see that come out next month in the fund balance report. Yeah, we have one more bus coming. And then capital projects, we have just over $7.5 million in that fund.
Any questions on those reports?
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right. Give you that, Kevin. Okay, so next on our list is the annual asset preservation report, building condition report. So this is a requirement by the state to have a full building condition assessment report done every 6 years. And so in year one, and then you do it every 6 years. So we were up for ours this last year. NAC Architecture actually conducted the building assessment for all of our schools as part of the study and survey. So it did get done. We, as you may or may not know, the state requirement for any building project that includes state match, that we access state match funds, that's a requirement for those buildings to be assessed. We go ahead and assess all of our buildings, even though we didn't access state match on Selah Intermediate School. That school was got done right when I got here. So there was no state match on that one. So you can see in the report that John Campbell was in the excellent category, 100%, not uncommon with a brand new school, well built and good infrastructure. Lentz at 100%, middle school 90%, which is good rating. And then Selah is at 76.48 and the high school at 61.53. So those are both fair, and Lentz actually at 60.76 fair. So you can see the list of the building component areas that they look at and assess. But yeah, so Frank has done this work to get the report submitted into ICOS, and so we like to give it to the board every year.
Great, thank you, Chris. Excuse me. We now have three reports, annual reports from, speaking of Frank, annual facilities report, the annual technology report from Greg Sugden, and the annual nutrition report from Lori Ozanich. And this year, as well as last year, we've asked them, instead of coming and presenting slides and reading the slides to us, that they present documentation of their report to us that we can look at and ask any questions if we have any questions. And I'm guessing, Kevin, we can ask you questions, or Chris,
Yes.
if we have, or Stephanie, if we have questions about those. After we've looked through those, does anybody have any questions about those three reports?
And if you don't feel like you have them there, or you hadn't had a chance to go through those, you could email directly any of the three of them to get more specifics on that.
Or me too. You can email me. I'd just like to interject on this. We feel truly blessed, I'll speak for all of us, to have the quality of classified directors that we have in this district. It's just the longevity of the people says one thing, says it all, or a lot of it, that they love what they do here. But just in the reports, it doesn't, they've done a nice job outlining different components of their positions in the reports. But honestly, I work with these directors obviously a lot, and we talk almost daily in some times of the year, and for sure every other month that we get together. And then we get together with all the classified directors once a month with Kevin and Chad, myself, and then all of the classified directors to just talk and go over things that could impact the others departments on what's going on. So it kind of gives everybody a good sense of what's happening in the other departments and how they can support the effort if needed, like Frank supporting the other departments with whether it's something with the fixing the equipment in the kitchens or whatever it is. But all four, I know Stephanie doesn't have a report on here right now. She's one of our classified directors. All of them, I'll just say, are outstanding leaders in their departments. They take pride in what they do every day. And they're always looking to improve what they are providing for service for everyone they serve. And that's why we exist, right? We exist to serve everyone in the district, to help move our district forward and to support student learning. And they all have that mindset every day. They're always thinking about, okay, how's this going to impact our students? Honestly, we have these conversations and it warms my heart, because that's why we're here, And so I just want to say publicly to all of our classified directors, a big thank you for everything that they do every day, and just always striving to be better than they were the day before.
I'll second that, Chris. I've sat through a lot of presentations from specifically these three. And we've made the decision, obviously, every other year for kind of efficiency reasons, to do a written report. But it's always enjoyable to have these guys in here because they're excitable. Greg maybe hides a little bit more than the other two, but they're very excited and happy at their jobs, and they're ready to make presentations and answer any questions and stuff. And so it's been a real joy to get to know these three people in particular.
I did have one quick question, and maybe you could answer this. There have been some recent cutbacks at the USDA in terms of funding local foods to school districts, which I know our school district has been really smart to pick up on that and provide healthy food from local growers. I understand the status of that of those cuts will affect our program. What will happen going forward with that need opportunity, I guess?
So as at this point in time, the state is going to maintain the infrastructure of the procurement side of it. They're not putting any money to it right now. The federal funding has been cut. I believe there might be action at the Congress level to change that. Kevin might know a little.
What I've read up on this is has been kind of looked at from the legal perspective, and the administration does have the ability to eliminate these funds. Now, obviously that could change. They could decide that when they start looking at all the things that have been reduced, maybe they decide that this is one that has a great benefit and can be put back and funded. But as of right now, the legalese of this would not be that one that would go to the courts to make a determination on. So we need to plan accordingly that we are not going to have these resources next year. We will have resources this year to continue this year, but nothing for next year or the years after.
And so our interest is to continue to connect with farmers. We've done it for a long time with apples and all kinds of local produce from farmers. We'd like to continue the farm to school concept in our district, but now it's at full cost. See, we had full funding this current school year. Next year was going to be half the funding. And then, so it was going to be cut back, but we're still our efforts are to bring in, support our local farmers as much as we can. We're still waiting to hear on a grant that we applied for, a scales grant that would help us connect with Northwest Harvest and other entities, other school districts to help provide transport of local farmed goods to our schools and so on and so forth. I won't get into all the details on that. We're likely not going to see the grant. The word is the scales grant's not going to be awarded, but we haven't officially heard yet for Selah. So Lori's very passionate about this. As you can imagine, her anxiety is very high about this and the community eligibility provision where all kids eat at no cost. I mean, all of those things are really unknown at this point. They may make a decision that we have to go back to the free and reduced lunch application process, and then all kids don't get to eat at no cost. They go through the application process. One thing and I hope that doesn't happen, because it's just providing access for kids is huge. We all know that. We want to make sure all kids have food to eat so they can learn well. We are building systems as we speak to help provide efficiencies in collecting those forms from families. Right now, we're looking at the SNEEB, what they're calling the SNEEB form for the family income survey, to provide better systems on our end to get those back from parents. We can use those same systems that we're creating now for a free and reduced application to try to get as many back as we can. As you know, poverty rates drive funding. They drive LAP funding. They're in the equation for Title I. And so it's an important thing for us. And Lori is very concerned. She's worked really hard to get things going in the school with Breakfast After the Bell. And Breakfast After the Bell has been an initiative that is a requirement of the community eligibility provision. So if that goes away, then, we have to reevaluate what we're doing. But the Breakfast After the Bell has really helped our numbers and helped all kids have access to meals, where before they may have just walked by and or shown up late and didn't have the opportunity for breakfast. So
I think you'll still see remnants, probably a lot of connection to the work with Farm to School next year. Right? I don't think you'll see a visible change to that. It may take a lot more on Lori's part to find products that are going to be available under what used to be the Farm to School program, but I think you'll still see the commitment of having the farm to school concept with the actual food we're providing to the students. How long we can do that economically and continue to be at a good place, I don't know. I don't know, but the theory behind it, the belief behind farm to school, supporting local farmers, that's all a concept that I know Lori is all in on, and so Chris and I in the district as a whole. So we're going to continue to do the best we possibly can with that.
And one last comment on that. One thing that the farm to school concept has given us more drive to provide even more scratch cooking for our kids. That's not going to change. Lori's passion is to continue to grow the scratch offerings for kids, and it's amazing. All the taste testing she does in the buildings with kids is just really cool. Kids get to try them, and then they're all of a sudden they're going to lunch, and now they want it because they like it, and it's good stuff. So.
Great. Thank you for that update on those programs. All right, we'll move on now to the superintendent report. Kevin, you're item 10.
Thank you. Parent conference week next week, everyone. All days are early release except for Wednesday. So you will see normal parent conference week. We haven't changed anything really from the past that we did in the fall. Following that week, traditionally in our school district, following parent conference break week is spring break, 4th through the 11th. The next time that you will gather together is not the second Thursday of April. It's the 3rd Thursday of April. Because of spring break, that will be April 17th, 7 o'clock in the morning at Robert Lentz Early Learning Center. Back-to-back weeks. Yeah, you'll have study session, and that study session is the elementary school principal roundtable. So they have principals of SIS, JCP, and Robert Lentz there with presentations for you about how their buildings are going, the good things, the successes, and the challenges, just as we have done in the past. Today is the 27th of March. The legislative session ends April 27th, so there is 1 month left. The good, both the House and the Senate have released their operating budgets, so it gives them a lot of time, and next month will be to figure out how they get those two budgets comprised into one agreeable budget to both. Lots of stuff still out there, lots of things. I don't even want to guess where it's going to end up. There is differences between the two budgets for sure. I think you've probably seen media about the difference of philosophical beliefs in regards to the budgets from the Republicans and the Democrats. So there's a lot of things to go on in the next month, and I will be following all of them. So keep you up to date as much as I possibly can. This is the time that I think maybe even more so that the monthly WASA newsletter about the happenings Olympia may be even more important for you to take a look at. And then I'll put our impact on what that means specific to Selah in regards to some of those. That's it for me.
Thank you, Kevin. We're now on the board communications. Does anyone have any board communications to share with us this week, this month? All right, excellent. There's no need for an executive session at this meeting, and so we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone.